Do you respond to haters when they post on your, you do?
Not always. I mean, right now, the sheer volume between text messages, social, email that I'm getting is unsustainable, even if I did it for 18 hours a day. But I'm I had 30-minute coffee this morning with a gentleman who, I wouldn't call him a hater, but was aggressively pushing back against me on social. And we had a lovely conversation about like marketing and how we see it differently. I get a lot of value. I mean, look, there's people that are making up stuff. The kid that wrote the article today about me in the sports card world made up stuff because I posted a photo of a box of cards yesterday, which I did for my friend that runs StockX, Josh, as a friendly gesture. He's turned it into this highly like hidden compensate. I mean, people are delusional.
Right.
So that I don't get a lot of value out of. Lying or mean hate. If somebody, you know, haters that pick on women and use sexual, that you're not gonna, there's no engagement there. People that are like, Gary, you're a charlatan, like you're full of shit, like, what have you ever done? I'm comfortable jumping in and be like, hey, I understand you may not like the Instagram videos or I might come across too aggressive, but like, on that point of what have I ever done, I do think there should be a discussion of like, I've built 2 massive businesses. Like, and to that point, that might be a framework to a conversation. If the reply to you is like, fuck you, bitch, then I'm like, okay, this needs to move on. If they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, I didn't realize that, then I'll come back and be like, hey, what about you? Like, what do you do? Like, I'm very capable of dealing with negativity because I come at it from compassion and empathy. They don't know me.
Right.
Everybody in this room doesn't know me, and I know these 3 hang out with me a lot and have a lot of access to me. They don't fully know me. Who knows you? So when people are casting judgment, like, this is why I don't take compliments high either.
That's hard. That is really, you have to train yourself to do that.
Well, this is why, you know, I look at like, there's a couple things that people really struggle with. If you're attractive as a guy or gal, inevitably you're in trouble because you grew up in a life where people told you were attractive and you took that in. If you had high success in school, if you had high success in sport, you know, by not being an attractive scholar or athlete, I had none of those over things. And so what actually gave me reinforcement was the end market. Nobody complimented me except the results of my little businesses. So I became market driven, not people's opinions driven. My friends got it? Yeah. That's what I've self-analyzed. So that's what I'm looking for everybody else to do. Forget about individual opinions. What's the score say? Do people, like, I always tell people, do the people that know you best like you? See, my thing is there's so many people out there that are admired, but if you look carefully, their inner circle's garbage.
That's sad.
Well, that's a lot of people that people think are awesome. Like a lot of people that get exposed later in the news, like bad shit, Me Too, fraud, to go to jail. If you look carefully, you can be like, why don't they have an inner circle? Why aren't there people there for a long time?
That's creepy.
Like, I'm like, why do I have people around me forever? Like it's not super complicated. Like, people get confused and then the reverse. So to me, I'd rather the people that know me the best admire me the most, and the people that don't know me at all and are insecure and upset with themselves hate me the most.
Absolutely.
That's the game.
Done.
Fear is a real, you need to challenge yourself, in my opinion, to play that exact, you are not naturally that person. Just like I'm not naturally work out well. Like, it's really fun to think I don't do radical candor well because I hate micro negativity, which has led to all my vulnerabilities. That's what I'm working on. You need to fucking go all in on everything that is judgment. Judge the judger. A couple of new big executives have come to Vayner and they're like, wow, this place is fucking amazing. And I'm like, why? And both said the same thing. They said after 6 months, they're like, you don't just blindly take content and context from people, you actually 360 it. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, a couple weeks ago I told you Sally Magoo sucked, and you came back a week later and said you have a wrong perspective because you only took it from one person's point of view. And you were right after I did the homework. Judge the judger, my friends. If somebody says you're ugly, you have to decide who that person is, including your mom, including your dad.
Most importantly, those people, because those people are coming from their own challenging places.
Judge the judger.
You're so right.
People get feedback and they're like, I'm stupid. I'm like, because Ricky Magoo said you're stupid? Judge the judger. That's the easiest way to get into a fear-based. Here's my framework. I don't let anybody else's opinion override my own. Judge the judger. And when I lose, because there is no judger. It's just the market. My book didn't sell. My sports car didn't sell. My business did bad. We got fired. I accept it. I own it. When the market says you lost, you have to own it. It's like sports. Either you lost or you won. And when you lose, you have to accept it. But anything that's a subjective judgment, judge the judger. That's how you get a relationship with fear. There was some gal in line in this speech I gave, and she's like, Gary, I know your thesis of taste things in your 20s and figure out what you love or what you're great at or what to your point. And she's like, but I've done all that. Like, what do I do? And I looked at her. She was from Belarus too. So I was like, kind of like from the homeland. And I'm like, let me get this straight. You've decided that you've done everything on earth and you now know like, it was funny to watch her like realize, oh, I've only done 9 things and there's 9 billion things. There's so many things.
Well, it's like I was just mentioning to you, Marcia Kilgore, how she's disrupted the beauty business. Look at that. This is someone who has been in the beauty business for a couple of decades and one day just said, hey, I'm going to flip this whole model upside down. Now it just challenges me to think, how can I flip everything upside down?
Everything's in play because of the internet. Bookstores and limos are just the first ones. Everything. Every single thing is vulnerable.
Everything.
Everything. What do you want to... Everybody who's listening, like, you like eyelash extensions? Vulnerable. You like ice cream? Vulnerable. You like kindergarten? Vulnerable. Literally, this is why people, sometimes struggle to understand what I'm saying. All of it. The answer is yes. There's nothing that is protected. Amazon's vulnerable. I'm telling you right now, let me explain what I mean by that. If you ask me, give me a top 10 great idea to start a business right now, one of them is to start a local bookstore.
That's shocking.
That's why I'm making a point of it. I believe that we are at enough scale of books being delivered by Amazon that the counter move is now up for debate. That if you build a trendy, coffee, WeWorky, co-working, kind of vibey, dry bar, Sephora, rad fucking bookstore, that people will go. That if you make it experiential and have another variable, that people will pay the extra dollars that are more than Amazon to be there.
I don't know. So I had the TED Talk. I ordered like 7 dresses online because when you're a woman, you have to really think about what you're going to wear for something.
What about
like
men?
This. No, it's not as big a deal for a man. It's not. You're not going to be scrutinized the way that I would be.
I think it's time that we start having counter debates of where some men are like wildly focused on what they're wearing.
They're not going to be scrutinized. Though. It's irrelevant.
Scrutinized.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to talk about what I wore. Like, it's too sexy, or it's not. She's not feminine, or whatever.
But why does that matter?
I don't know. It matters in a woman's head. These are the things women think about.
Men think about how much money they make, how tall they are. Men think about a lot of things too. I'm not making a men-women thing. I'm making it how do you eliminate that? Because then you go fast.
I'll move out of Miami. That's what I should do to eliminate that.
Or just not value people's opinions, pro or con.
You're right. You are right.
I want that for you. Because I want that for everybody. I want it for everybody. I want it for everybody. I went to the Knicks game last night and had 400,000. My friend said to me, holy fuck, you're more popular than every Knick. And when I tell you that I can't even feel it, I can't. Which is why I can handle the next morning when somebody wrote a blog post this day that I'm trying to exploit the sports card industry because Topps paid me $25,000 to curate a set. Like, you need to be able to, I really want this for you. And I have a lot of empathy when you talk about women's appearance, like the enormity of DMs that I get from women that say, look, easy for you. Like, I spend 40 years before I go on film. And I'm like, look, there's so many, like, I understand that. Historical truths, men and women are different. There's a million things that go into that, but there are so many men that are shy to go on camera because of their looks, and there are so many women that are not, and vice versa.
Sure.
And I'm just trying to get everybody into a mindset of happiness, which is actually truth of elimination of judgment. Like, what's funny about me is every time anything happens, I start the process of worst case scenario. Dustin emails me and says, I need 3 minutes with you. This is real. It just happened. The first thing I think is, I hope he's not sick. Like, I go so funny.
My God.
I go into like, what's the worst that can happen? I hope he's not sick. I hope something something weird didn't happen. Like John did something weird to him and it needs to go to HR. That's the next. To me, it's in this order. That person or their family is sick. Next, something like super politically incorrect, legal, sexual harassment. That's the next worst thing. Third is a good employee wants to leave. So if like a good employee says, I need to see you, that's the third thing I think. But like, that's all I think. I don't think like, oh, it's gonna be a 5-minute check-in. This is, by the way, everyone who's listening, this is the shit of owning your shit. Like, this is actually the way you think. This is why it's interesting what you, it's crazy to me, but it makes so much sense, which is why I'm jumping on this point. I never really thought about this. The only thing I would have thought when she wanted to see me is I'm getting fired. But what I just realized based on your reaction, literally just hit me, is like, right, when you're completely accountable to yourself, which is what you're figuring out now, all the greatness of loving your boss and feeling safe, the shit part is the way my brain actually works. Listen to what I'm telling you. Every time anyone reaches out to me, in order, I think about terminal illness for them or their loved one, sexual harassment or stealing or something horrible. Third is they're leaving and we value them. That is literally the order that my head goes. Then it's like, hey Gary, can we get $500 for a TGIF Fridays party next Thursday for the team? I'm like, yes. That's why I'm always in a good mood when it's anything but 3. And the third one's not even that scary because genuinely on the record for anybody from Vayner that hears this, if one feels like they're ready to move on, I want to help them. It's the first 2 that scare the fuck out of me and always what I think. Every time a client reaches out, we're getting fired. Never we're getting more growth in business. Macro, I'm optimistic. Macro, I'm like, we're gonna win, we're the best. Micro, I'm not.